What is going on, Raptors Nation? It is Luca here back with another video. I wanted to come at you with a quick video. I know everybody's been well invested in the NBA playoffs. At least I hope you are, because so far the NBA playoffs have been cinema. I mean, that doubleheader the other night was incredible with the Knicks winning the way that they did and the Nuggets pulling out that victory thanks to the Jamal Murray game winner. But I did want to look ahead to Raptors free agency. We obviously got a lot of time to dissect what's going to happen this summer with who's going to be back, who's not going to be back. Obviously, the Raptors draft is going to be a big one. Raptors could have up to 3 picks in that draft. And by the way, we did find out the other day that the Raptors first round pick via the Pacers, that's going to be 19. So the Raptors confirmed picks for this upcoming draft, number 19, number 31. What remains to be seen is if the Raptors are going to keep their own top 6 protected first round pick. They have a 45.8% chance of doing so. So we're going to find out that on May 12th when the NBA draft lottery happens. But in this one, I wanted to take a look at the Raptors free agents and just give you my opinion on whether or not I see them staying or going and what the whole ordeal with them is going to be. So before we dive right into this, guys, do me a solid, hit a like on the video and also subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. So we're not going to waste any more time. Let's dive right into it. It's not a long list of players on the free agency list, but we're first going to start with unrestricted free agent Jordan Nwora. So obviously the Raptors acquired Nwora from the Indiana Pacers in the Pascal Siakam blockbuster deal. Nwora averaged 7.9 points per game in 34 contests with the Raptors. He got a lot more playing time when the Raptors had a bunch of injuries that they were dealing with. Nwora made $3 million in 2023, 2024. And when I look at Nwora, he could be a nice end of the bench piece for the Raptors. And I mean, if the Raptors need to fill out their roster, they could definitely bring back Nwora on a cheaper deal. And I would not be surprised if he's back. So I'm actually leaning towards I see Nwora being back just because I feel like he had his moments where he showed us a lot of good things and he didn't really get to officially, solidify himself with this Raptors team. And I think this is a guy you want to invest in. He's a player that you got in that Siakam trade. When you look at Nwora, he's had some nice performances that leads you to think he can offer a little bit more, especially in an end of the bench type of role. He's 25 years old, so he fits your timeline. So I'm leaning towards I see Nwora being back with the Raptors. Okay, next, we got unrestricted free agent and veteran Garrett Temple, as he is going to be turning 38 in May. Garrett Temple signed a 1-year deal with the Raptors last summer for $3.2 million. He obviously didn't play a whole ton with the team. He did play down the stretch, again, when the Raptors were going through that stretch of injuries. But when you look at Garrett Temple, I mean, his role on this team is simple. He's not meant to eat up minutes. He's not meant to play games. He's meant to just be a mentor for the younger players on this team and serve as that valuable voice and presence in the locker room, on the bench. And I think the Raptors bring him back based on that, because you look at Garrett Temple, he's a valuable vet who you want your young core to learn from. And what really stood out to me was the fact that Barnes got a lot along with Temple very, very well. We saw Barnes and Temple do a lot of talking, spending a lot of time together, obviously sitting beside each other on the bench when Barnes was recovering from his hand injury. And Barnes actually said that Temple inspired him to be a leader, and he's learned a lot from him. So I think Temple, he's got a future in this league when it comes to being an assistant coach. And when it comes to this Raptors team, he's been a valuable, valuable presence. And I think having a guy like this does wonders for a young team that is rebuilding. You can't have a locker room filled with all young kids. You need some veterans on this team. Obviously, Olynyk's going to be a part of that equation. But Garrett Temple, I think he makes a lot of sense. And he's not going to cost you much. I mean, this is a guy who, again, is coming off a 1-year, $3.2 million deal. So something similar, even less. I think he does a lot of good things in terms of, he's going to be a guy who can teach these young players a thing or two because he's seen a lot in his NBA playing career. So I'm going to lean towards Temple being back. All right, next, Trent Jr. This is a very interesting one. He's coming off a down year scoring-wise for the Raptors, but he's had his moments. He's had big games, especially when Scottie Barnes was out with injury, and he finished up the season playing strong defense. Trent Jr., I mean, he still ended up being one of the best spot-up shooters in the league, so that's valuable. I mean, anytime you got a guy who can add shooting to your team, three-point shooting, that is obviously very, very important in today's NBA. And you look at this Raptors team, they need shooting. And they're going to need some shooting around Scotty Barnes as they look to continue this rebuild. Now, I'm not sold on Trent Jr. being the starter for this team. And you got Grady Dick waiting in the wing, who did a lot of good things to end the season, who can definitely fill his role. But it's going to come down to as simple as, if the price is right for Gary Trent Jr. and what his market is going to be. So Trent Jr. may have fallen into the mid-level exception, which would start at about $12.4 million. So at that price point, there's going to be a lot of teams interested in Gary Trent Jr. Now, Toronto could go over that number using Trent's bird rights, and the Raptors could bring Trent Jr. back on a deal above the mid-level exception. I would say $15 million a season would be a fair deal for Gary Trent Jr., and I certainly wouldn't go past $17.5 million. That would be my ultimate cap on what you would offer Gary Trent Jr. in this situation. I mean, he is 25 years old, fits the same timeline. He's been around this team, so he can easily be a veteran presence to some of the younger players on this team. So there is value in bringing him back. So, yeah, I mean, if the price point is fair and the Raptors don't have to overpay for Gary Trent Jr., I could certainly see them bringing him back on a type of deal. Like I said, $15 million I think would be fair. Now, there could definitely be a team out there that has cap space to spend that offers Gary Trent Jr. a very lucrative deal to bring him in. And if that's the case, Gary Trent Jr. is going to get his bag. But if the interest isn't there in terms of a higher price point, Raptors can make him a deal that is fair, and Gary Trent Jr. probably wants to be back just because he's spent the last couple of seasons in Toronto and he's familiar with this team. And obviously, Darko has spoke highly about him. He's definitely got Darko's stamp of approval. So I'm leaning towards the Raptors will get something done that's fair in terms of bringing Gary Trent Jr. back. But if the price point is more than 15 or the absolute most, like I said, 17 and a half, if it's more than that, I mean, I'm willingly letting Gary Trent Jr. walk and get his bag elsewhere. So that is Gary Trent Jr. So those are the unrestricted free agents. Now let's take a look at restricted free agency. And the biggest name the Raptors are going to have to look into here and address is Immanuel Quickley, because Quickley is a restricted free agent. He's going to be the Raptors' biggest priority this summer, and the Raptors can match any offer that comes his way. So Quickley is eligible for a 5-year extension, and it is likely to be around $150 million. Michael Grange reports that it could be for as much as $204.5 million if the Raptors wanted to offer Quickley the maximum. He's eligible for it, so that's definitely a possibility here. And I said it in a prior podcast that I can see Quickley getting $30 million a season, and I think that's what he's going to get. But Immanuel Quickley, he's virtually a lock to being back with his Raptors team. The Raptors are going to do whatever it takes to bring him back, and they're not going to fumble losing Immanuel Quickley. They made the trade, obviously bringing in RJ Barrett and Quickley. They see both those pieces as being integral parts of their team. And when they look at their young core, it's Barnes, it's Quickley, it's Barrett. So they're definitely not going to lose Quickley here. It would be an absolute disaster if that were to be the case. So Quickley's going to be back. And like I said, it's virtually a lock that it happens. So that leaves us with one more decision the Raptors have to make, and that is Bruce Brown Jr., who's on a team option. And Brown has a $23 million team option for next season on the final year of a 2-year contract that he signed with Indiana. So the Raptors are currently weighing out their options. They could keep him for next year, accept that team option and just keep him. They could pick up the team option and trade him at some point over the next few months, or they could let him walk in free agency, and that would open up cap space that the Raptors could then use to go after somebody else. What I think ultimately happens with Brown is that the Raptors pick up his team option and they use him as a trade chip. I think there's going to be a lot of teams that are looking for a piece like Bruce Brown to help their playoff run, their championship aspirations for the following season. There's going to be a lot of contenders that feel like they're a couple of tweaks away from being in that conversation when it comes to competing for a chip. And Bruce Brown makes perfect sense. Veteran type player, does so many good things well. Hard-nosed defensive player. Obviously was a big piece of the Nuggets when they made their championship run in 2023. And the Raptors, they reportedly wanted a first-round pick for Brown. So could the Raptors try to trade Brown before the draft, get another pick? Or could they use Brown and get a pick for a future draft? I mean, next year's draft is looking intriguing. So I think the Raptors are going to take their time with the situation. They're not going to rush anything. They're going to pick up that team option, but they're going to flip Brown in a trade in the coming months. And they're going to have some time to weigh out their options versus if they just decline the option. And then, yeah, like I said, Brown would become a free agent. So I think the Raptors are going to, use Brown as a trade chip. They got leverage in this situation. So that's what I see happening with Brown. I think the Raptors accept the team option and then they eventually trade him. So those are my predictions when it comes to the Raptors free agents. What do you guys think? Who do you see being back? I mean, this can be a complete clean slate, again, with the exception of Quickley, because I do not see a world where Quickley's not back with the Raptors. But we've seen crazier things with this team. But yeah, let me know who you guys see coming back. Let me know who you don't. And I'm going to do a separate video in the coming weeks looking at potential free agents the Raptors could target when looking at this free agency class. I'll be back at it again, guys, this Thursday with the latest edition of the Raptors Nation podcast. But that is it for me. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel for more, and leave your comments down below. This is Lucas signing off. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, stay safe.